What is gaslighting? Gaslighting is a form of manipulation that often occurs in abusive relationships. It is a covert type of emotional abuse in which the bully or abuser misleads the target, creating a false narrative and making them question their judgments and reality. Ultimately, the victim of gaslighting starts to feel unsure about their perceptions of the world and even wonder if they are losing their sanity. Gaslighting is a form of mental abuse in which the abuser manipulates situations and conversations to make their victim question their own sanity. It can be difficult to detect if you are being gaslighted because it is not always obvious. The victim can feel like they are going crazy or that they are misremembering things, but they don't realize that the abuser is the one who has caused this confusion. Gaslighting often starts small, but it can grow more severe over time. Tips for reversing the effects of gaslighting. Gaslighting is a psychological term that refers to a manipulative behavior of an individual to make another person doubt their own sanity. Gaslighting can be done in many ways, but the most common one is by telling the other person that they are imagining or misremembering things, and then using this as evidence for their claim. In order to reverse the effects of gaslighting, it is important to recognize when you are being gaslighted and then find ways to deal with it. The first step in reversing the effects of gaslighting is recognizing when you are being gaslighted. It's not always easy to identify because it can happen so subtly, but there are some signs that may indicate you're being gaslighted. You feel like you don't. Things you can do to avoid being gaslit or manipulated again in the future. The best way to avoid being gaslit or manipulated again is to recognize the signs of manipulation and gaslighting. It is important to be able to identify when someone is attempting to manipulate you. There are many ways that people can be manipulated, and it is important to recognize them before they are successful in their manipulation. Gaslighting can be identified by a few key traits, including constantly denying that something happened or was said, even though it was witnessed by more than one person. Telling someone they are too sensitive or too emotional when they're not. Exaggerating things that have happened or were said so that the other person doesn't believe their version of events anymore. The impact of gaslighting abuse on mental health. Being consistently told that you are wrong, confused, or even crazy can have devastating effects on mental health. Along with questioning their own reality and beliefs, gaslighting victims often feel isolated and powerless. Gaslighting abuse symptoms also include low self-esteem, disorientation, self-doubt, and difficulty functioning in school, at work, or in social situations. As a result, people who experience gaslighting are at a high risk for anxiety, depression, and suicidal thoughts. Young adults who suffered from these conditions prior to the abuse may be more vulnerable to gaslighting, which in turn makes their mental health issues worse. Gaslighting may not be the only factor leading to mental illness, but the same factors that leave a person vulnerable to gaslighting may result in lower self-esteem, uncertainty about their own reality, anxiety, and ultimately depression. Over time, you begin to believe that there is something wrong with you because one of the most important people in your life is telling you this.